Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I'm so excited for you guys to hear from our very next guest. I have virtually in front of me Dr. Heather Finley. She is a registered dietitian and gut health expert. And you guys, gut health has been, I think it's a great thing that it's super popular right now, but with popularity comes lots of BS and also like misinformation. And so I'm really, really excited to have an expert here to really help us sift through that. I know my current clients have questions. I know the general public has questions. So hopefully we can get all of your questions answered today. So without further ado, Dr. Heather, how are you today? Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. So glad to be here. Doing great. Glad to be sitting in front of you virtually, obviously, and chatting.
Yeah, well, super, super happy to have you here. First question is always a three-part question. I would love for you to introduce yourself by sharing who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Awesome. I love that question. So straightforward and to the point. So I'm Dr. Heather Finley. I'm a registered dietitian and my specialty is gut health. And the reason that I am into gut health is because of my own journey. So I help women struggling with a variety of digestive issues find relief from their symptoms by using my Gut Together method, which really is all about getting to the root cause. So instead of going for a quick fad or a Band-Aid fix, we are looking for why you feel the way that you do, kind of under the surface, if you think of it like looking under the hood of a car, like what spark plugs aren't firing, help you to find that sustainable relief that you're looking for. And the reason, like I mentioned, that I do what I do is because I once have been in your shoes. I struggled with chronic digestive issues for about 20 years of my life and felt super confused. Doctor after doctor telling me to just take Miralax or drink more water, or that it was all in my head, or there was nothing wrong with me, and felt super just frustrated and kind of hopeless, to be honest. So kind of sent me down this journey of really looking more into the functional and integrative world. And now I feel like I am kind of straddling the fence of like bringing in all the functional stuff and blending it with conventional medicine for my clients as well, and helping them really to like comprehensively address their digestive issues so that they don't have to struggle like I did for 2 decades with constipation, bloating, gas, all the really sexy topics that you're not going to talk about at dinner unless you're at my house, but you know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. No. Yeah, guys, don't worry. We're not afraid about talk about poop. That's like our thing as dietitians, because if you're having regular bowel movements, right, and you're not super bloated or constipated, probably then we could make an assumption that your health is doing all right. I mean, we don't know the rest of the story, but like we could know that component of it is probably you're doing well, right? Whereas like having that, the constipation or diarrhea or bloating, there's probably something going on, right? Like you said, there's something we need to get to the root cause of. So I think that's really, really awesome. So first question that came to me as you were speaking is, are there like common root causes? Like if you could give like the top 3 common root causes to why someone might be having these GI, when I say GI, guys, I mean gastrointestinal related symptoms, what would you say those are?
So this may or may not be surprising to people listening, but probably the most common root cause of digestive symptoms is stress. And I'm not just talking about stress like you have a stressful job or you're stuck in traffic. I'm talking about stress in all forms. So stress from not sleeping enough, stress from under eating, stress from chronic dieting, stress from over exercising, stress from your job, your relationships, of course, even like stress from your environment. There's so many things that add stress to our bodies on a daily basis. And really, if our bodies are stressed, they can't heal. And so stress then affects every other root cause. So the other top root cause that we see is slow gut motility, which is affected by stress. When someone's in a chronic stressed state, their gut is not worried about having a bowel movement. It's worried about getting blood out of the gut to the muscles so that it can run away from this proverbial bear. So slow motility, often, yes, it's a root cause, but the root of that oftentimes is stress. It can be other things as well, but a common trigger for that is stress. So stress, slow motility, and then probably I would say if we're going with 3, probably low stomach acid. That is a really common one. Again, triggered by stress. When you're stressed, you deplete minerals. You need minerals to make stomach acid. And it can be just such a vicious cycle. Stomach acid also is important for gut motility. If your stomach can't fill with acid, it can't empty. So there comes the slow motility. So as you can see, they all start affecting each other and can cause a whole cascade of issues.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think just to reiterate what you said about stress, like stress can be from a stressful life, from relationships, dieting, under eating, over exercising. Like these are things that cause stress on the body. So I think if someone hears this, they might be like, oh, well, no, I mean, my life is pretty good. It's like, also too, is there an aftermath? Like, could you be in a good stage of your life, but still struggling probably because of like past trauma or past situations? Like how long does it affect one's gut if you've been in a stressful situation and you get out of it?
It totally can. So we see lots of clients that have had like past concussions or like a traumatic brain injury, and they develop Hashimoto's or digestive issues like years later. And we link it back to that incident. We also see lots of clients that have had history of either disordered eating or eating disorders. And you know, a lot of people will tell you, oh, well, once you start eating again, regain your period, whatever is going on, your bloating will go away or constipation. And that is true, but for a lot of people, it doesn't. And so the digestive issues linger because of that stress that was on their body. But like you mentioned too, like past trauma, yeah, all of that. There's even studies showing that like childhood, like disruption in childhood care can actually lead to IBS later in life. So I can't remember the exact study off the top of my head, but it was like basically kids that were like adopted or in foster care at a certain age, and how that then affected their gut health and their like likelihood for IBS later in their life, which is just like so wild to me that it can really kind of pattern the whole life.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you had mentioned low stomach acid, and I have read, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that something you can help with that is like adding like lemon to your water. And that will help. If you drink that, that will help, can potentially part of like what could help restore the stomach acid. Is that true? 1. And then 2, what are things that people can do to help restore the stomach acid?
Yeah. So stomach acid, just to kind of explain like the physiology of it, like very briefly, stomach acid is produced via salivation. So just to kind of put some context here, we've all had an incident where maybe we like walk past a bakery and we're like, oh my gosh, that smells amazing. Whatever they're cooking in there, I want that. And you start salivating. So that's your brain telling your body, hey, we're getting ready to eat something amazing. We need saliva, and we also need stomach acid, pancreatic enzymes, etc. But you can't have stomach acid production in adequate amounts without that salivation piece. So really anything that's going to stimulate salivation is going to stimulate stomach acid production, which is kind of where the lemon water thing comes in. You know, it's sour, it's going to stimulate salivation, but that's where like digestive bitters or bitter foods come in too. So things like arugula, dandelion root, dark chocolate. Yes, you could like eat dark chocolate and improve your stomach acid if you're listening. But that's like a lot
Dr. of Dr. Finley told me I can eat dark chocolate by the masses.
It has to be dark, bitter chocolate because you have like to have 90, bitter effect.
Like 90% more dark cocoa, probably. Yeah. Real bitter.
So anything that's bitter is going to stimulate that salivation. It's then going to then trigger your stomach. Hey, there's food coming. We need acid. So, and I guess lemon also is acidic. So there is like some, piece there. I'm not sure that like lemon itself is probably going to like produce enough acid, but lemon is acidic. So if you put it on food or if you do put it in your water, it is going to help with that protein breakdown or just, extra acid is going to help break things down or break food down. So there is a piece there.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering this. I have so many questions, so I hope you're ready. Second question, pH of food or pH water, like certain drinking like alkaline water to help with your pH balance. Like how much does that affect your gut health or the acid in your stomach?
Yeah, definitely not gonna do anything for you.
Yes, I was like, I don't know what she's gonna say, but I think
don't waste your money on that stuff. Do not. If your pH in your body is off, then you're in the hospital.
Yeah,
like there's no reason for you to consume that. I mean, obviously we could get into like a really science-based episode on like gut bacteria and fermentation and how they lower the pH of the stomach and all that. But like in general, you do not need to drink alkaline or pH altered water. It's not going to do anything for you.
Right. And then also, isn't it true that if you eat a balanced diet with lots of variety, lots of different plant-based, like you don't have to be 100% plant-based, but meaning you eat plants, like you eat fruits or vegetables or, and different colors, that probably will help keep your gut microbiome at like a pretty like well placed. I don't know how else to say it, but right. Whereas like the very rigid eating, the very restrictive eating can usually, that's what, if anything's going to offset it a little bit, it would be that, but not enough to like put you in the hospital.
Yeah. So variety on your plate equals variety in your gut. So like the really interesting piece that I think often is missed in the digestive health world is that, I am working on my gut health, so I need to go on an elimination diet. But the reality is the more variety of food you can eat, the happier your gut is. The largest research study we have on gut health shows that 30 plants a week is like optimal for promoting gut health. So plants, not just being fruits and vegetables, but like nuts, seeds, legumes, herbs, spices, all grains. Of those things. Yeah, grains, all those things are plants. And so I think it's been cool actually, because I think people are starting to see this, but the shift from like gut health being this like super trendy, restrictive, like kind of detox thing to like this abundance of like, I can fuel my gut via what I eat because the bacteria in my gut, they're all picky eaters and they like different foods.
I love that. I feel like I have to ask this just because you're a gut health expert, and I've had other gut health experts before, and I've asked before, and we've answered it before, but we always have new listeners. Maybe it didn't sink in the last time. Does everybody who has IBS, actually it's a two-part question. Does everybody has IBS or some sort of like gut issues, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, anything like that? Do they need to go gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free?
So not everyone needs to go gluten or dairy-free. And the reason that people don't have to do that, because if you think about why people have trouble with gluten or dairy, it might not actually be the gluten or the dairy. It's the compounds that are in those foods that are FODMAPs. So this all kind of ties in together. So fructans, lactose, like those things are fermentable fibers. So someone eats a piece of bread and it feeds gut bacteria and they produce gas as a result. That's what happens in the gut because those specific foods are actually fermenting, which is what you want. You want fermentation in the gut. That's what helps produce short chain fatty acids and all that. But long story short, the reason that you have trouble with gluten or dairy is probably more likely because of the FODMAPs, not necessarily because of the gluten. So when you can fix and resolve the underlying gut issue, then it's easier to tolerate some of those foods. Right. That being said, there are lots of people that do struggle with dairy because of lactose intolerance, but that doesn't mean they have to completely scrap dairy. They can just do lactose free or, find like lower lactose versions of the dairy that they enjoy and maybe try that. So that's kind of the short of the long for gluten and dairy. And then low FODMAP. So low FODMAP can be super beneficial for symptom relief, but it's not a long-term solution. I think a lot of times people think that low FODMAP is a lifestyle. And the reality is it's a 6 to 8 week elimination that should be guided by a trained professional with a reintroduction. So what happens a lot of times is people go to the GI, they're like, I'm bloated. The GI is like, oh, well, here's Xifaxan and a low FODMAP diet handout. And so then they think like, I just have to eat this way forever. But a lot of FODMAPs contain prebiotic fiber, which is what we need for the diversity of our gut. So the longer you're on a restricted diet like low FODMAP, the more you're starving those good gut bacteria. And like I mentioned, you want that fermentation. Obviously, you don't want it where it's causing you to be uncomfortably bloated. But at the end of the day, the widest variety of foods with the least amount of symptoms is the goal. So just cutting out anything that makes you bloated is not necessarily the solution. Let's figure out why you're bloating and fix that so then you can incorporate those foods again.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's get into that, like the why someone might be bloated. So I'm assuming you recommended getting tested, certain different tests. So what are like the standard go-to tests where someone could either go to their gastroenterologist, or are there limitations with the gastroenterologist where maybe working with a functional dietitian, they can get further testing? Like what sort of tests should somebody be advocating for if they're feeling bloated or constipated or just, having chronic GI issues?
Yeah. If someone has chronic GI issues and like the lifestyle modifications haven't worked, like decreasing stress, improving hydration, improving
eating
sleep,
a balanced diet.
Yeah. Like eating, balancing blood sugar, all those things. If you've tried all that and it hasn't done anything, then more than likely you're going to go to the GI and they're probably going to recommend a colonoscopy, and that may or may not be helpful. If you think you might have celiac disease, then it could be helpful to get that ruled out. Like if it runs in your family, if you have the gene for it, et cetera, if you have the symptoms of it. But more often than not, you're going to get a colonoscopy. Everything's going to be fine. And then you're going to be stuck in the same situation. So that's where like more of like a functional dietitian could be helpful, because you can do some of the testing that you're just not going to get at the GI, like a GI map or something along those lines, to help really look at like what's going on in the gut. And of course, those tests have limitations too. So when you look at one of those tests, you're not just looking at like, oh, it's this one bacteria that's causing the problem. You're looking at like the overall makeup of the gut and what's going on. And then you can kind of start to decipher, okay, what's causing the problem, and kind of get to those root causes, like I mentioned. So you're not going to look at slow motility or stress or low stomach acid via one of those tests. That's like mostly by looking at patterns in your symptoms, your medical history, when your symptoms started, et cetera. But then the test is more going to look at like your bacterial balance, any infections, any overgrowths, how you're digesting and absorbing your food, inflammation, et cetera. And so it can help just kind of tie the whole picture in a bow so you have all the information and know what you need to do.
Right. And so that's usually like a stool test, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. So stool testing. So your GI. Also, I had a client, I had asked my client who was struggling with GI issues if she had a colonoscopy, and she said no, she had an endoscopy. What's the difference of what you can see? Is there a difference of what you can see in an endoscopy? I mean, I'm assuming the colonoscopy, you're getting your whole colon. The endoscopy, you're getting just like the top part. But I'm curious, is that a standard practice?
I think it depends on the GI. So a lot of times they'll do both because they're going to want to look at the upper GI in the endoscopy, and then they're going to want to look at the whole like landscape of the colon and the like actual colonoscopy, I would say, I mean, again, it depends on the GI, but it's probably fairly standard practice to do both. But if someone's not having like tons of reflux or anything like concerning like upper GI wise, maybe they would just do a colonoscopy. Again, I think it depends on the doctor.
Yeah. So, okay. Oh my God. I feel like I could pick your brain for a really long time because now you just remind me, like, honestly, like acid reflux, I think that once people turn 30, it's more common for them. And I know a lot of lifestyle reasons as to why that probably is, and just like, you know, life just like catches up with you and like, you can't drink all the time because you're just like, your esophageal sphincter is like broken. But I would love, are there any like general remedies or things that someone might be able to do? Somebody were bringing this up. So I was thinking about doing just like a separate podcast, like a quick, like 20-minute one about like, if you have GERD or like acid reflux, like some things you can do. So, you know, maybe a couple pointers for anybody who's struggling with acid reflux.
Yeah. So going back to the stomach acid piece, your stomach acid naturally very steeply declines when you hit 30. So there is like a reason for that, unfortunately.
You know what's so funny? I thought it was like just because like, you know, you're more resilient to stress like in your 20s. Now it's just like you can't. I literally didn't know that it was like, I just said 30 because that's just the observation that I noticed from friends. Like, I didn't know that there was like, what happens? Well, I guess actually I know that as you age, your stomach acid does, you know. Yeah.
Which maybe it's stress induced. Like maybe that's part of the mechanism, right? Like you're more stressed, you know, you've had more years of stress. So yeah, you naturally, your stomach acid naturally declines as you age, unfortunately. And we could get into a whole nother topic on this, like osteoporosis and like you need stomach acid to absorb minerals and, you know, all that. So that is normal. I mean, it's common, not normal, I guess, in quotes, if you were watching us right now, but, so for acid reflux, the first thing I would say is you want to make sure you don't have H. pylori. If you have H. pylori, it's the most common infection in the world. I actually just posted about this on Instagram the other day. It is very, very easy to get via saliva. So anyone that you are sharing drinks with, kissing, whatever, it's super transmittable. So it can be a super vicious cycle. If you have low stomach acid and you're kissing someone that has H. pylori, you're more likely to get H. pylori. So knowing if you do or don't have H. pylori can be super helpful because otherwise you're just going to feel like you're spinning a hamster wheel, like trying to get rid of it. We often have a lot of clients that are negative, like at their doctor's office, and then they do a GI map and they're positive, and that's a whole nother episode for another time. But as far as like increasing comfort, DGL is very helpful for acid reflux. You can take it before meals. There's lots of different variations.
What is DGL?
Deglycerized licorice. So there's lots of different supplements. You can take those before meals that can help with comfort. There's actually a probiotic strain that's very helpful for acid reflux. Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It's a little bit harder to find, but there's a product that's like, it's called like lactic acid wafers. Those are helpful. Even like drinking kefir after meals can be helpful for reflux for some people. Aloe juice before or after meals could be helpful. Slippery elm tea can be helpful. But really, those are obviously all things that you have to like drink or take or do. Managing stress is very important. And then meal hygiene. So how you're eating, not necessarily what you're eating, chewing your food really well, taking your time to eat, don't lay down right after you eat, try to stay upright, etc. So you can do a lot by just focusing on like chewing your food super well, inducing salivation beforehand, and even just taking time to eat a meal.
Yeah. Man, I'm writing so many notes. I feel like I'm going to school. I feel like
going to be pausing this, going back.
No, this is going to, I know people are going to love this episode. I'm loving this episode. So if I'm excited about an episode, because there's episodes where I'm not super excited about it. People are like, that was so great. I'm like, was it though? So I'm excited about it. Like people are going to be excited. Amazing. Oh my God. Okay. So you brought up some like things that people can take, like supplements, very like, they seem like very natural options. Where do supplements come into play when it comes to kind of like healing the gut, helping, aiding, should people just take anything they find on the internet? Like, I mean, we know the answers to that is no, but like help us understand like what would be beneficial if someone is struggling with GI issues and wanting a supplement.
Yeah. So I think a great way to waste a lot of money is to just go take random supplements from like influencers or off the shelves, or because like your aunt tried it and it worked for her. The thing about the gut is that your gut is as unique as a fingerprint. So what's going to work for me might be different than what's going to work for you. Of course, like some of these, like, the aloe or the different probiotic strains, like we know that they work because they've worked for lots of different people and there's research behind it. That being said, if it doesn't, don't feel like nothing's going to work for you, because and I think that's why people get so frustrated with their gut health is they feel like they're doing, quote unquote, all the right things, that the internet is telling them to do. But at the end of the day, they still don't really know why they're bloated, why they're constipated. And so they're just like throwing random supplements at themselves. When in reality, like the cause of their bloating could be maybe they have SIBO, or maybe they have, something else. And so if we're not addressing the actual cause of the bloating, constipation, whatever it might be, then you're just going to waste money. So it is more beneficial to figure out why you feel the way that you do, so you don't spend random amounts of money on, whatever it might be. And that could be why you're frustrated. That being said, like there are very safe supplements that you can take that, people talk about online. I would just do your research and be careful. Just because your favorite influencer says it helped them doesn't necessarily mean it will help you, but obviously use your better judgment.
Yeah. The whole, it helped me, so it'll help you is like that. Your red flags should go up. They should definitely go up in that sense.
And the other thing I'll add to that too, really quick, is I think we live with this mindset of like this, I just need to know what supplement to take to cure my bloat. And the reality is like supplements alone are not going to fix your bloating. There's so many other things that we have to do on the lifestyle side of things, the diet side of things, the mindset side of things. So if you're just relying on supplements, then you are going to feel super frustrated. The supplements can fit in. It's like a 3-legged stool. If supplements are one leg of that stool, nutrition, lifestyle / mindset are the other legs. You have to have those. Otherwise the stool is going to fall over.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. So what you're saying is that if you had a stool test done and it was very, like there was more of an understanding of what was going on, then working with a professional and getting prescribed supplements based on like factual information is going to be helpful, but just like taking random things that you see on the shelf is like not helpful. Yeah. Gotcha. In addition to lifestyle changes.
Yeah. And you may not even really need testing. Like not everyone needs testing, but you might just need someone to help you look at patterns in your symptoms. Like if you're always bloated at the end of the day, that tells us a lot about why you're bloated. If you're always bloated at the beginning of the day, like it tells us a lot. So if you have someone to be able to help you just decipher the patterns in your symptoms too, even if you feel like there aren't patterns, there probably are, or the lack of a pattern is also information, that can help just guide the plan as well.
Okay. Oh, so good. Okay. One more quick question and then we'll wrap up. I feel like it could talk for hours, but a client recently came to me and said that someone had gotten her, this is a very weird gift, I would say, to give someone. Someone had a Groupon, a buy it for one, where she could use the one, not have to pay it. So it was gifted her to get hydrotherapy, colon hydrotherapy, which from my understanding is just like, they just flush. It's almost like a colonoscopy, it sounds like, but like it's not a colonoscopy because you're not going, it's not under a doctor. It's not like, please speak about this. Is this helpful? Is this something people should be doing I know that it shouldn't be for people who, she had mentioned like she might, lose some weight doing it. And that's not why. Like, it's not for weight loss. Like, that's dangerous. We know that. But like for someone who is struggling with like bloating or some sort of GI upset, would colon hydrotherapy, like, should they try that? Should they do that?
Yeah, good question. And it's actually like, one, I feel bad for your client that was a gift that they were given. But sadly, it's actually a very common thing that a lot of people try because, I mean, I get it. You're desperate. You're so bloated. You're so uncomfortable. You're having abdominal pain. You just want to feel better. So you're willing to try anything, right? And so maybe this family friend was super well-meaning, but yeah, you're right. Basically, colon hydrotherapy is like this colonic irrigation where you like flush large amounts of water through the colon. Supposedly, it's supposed to help for like detoxification, boosting energy, relieving abdominal pain, etc. There's a lot of concern for this. One, it's not addressing the root issue, but two, like there's kind of a sanitation concern here, a reliance concern, like you could become dependent on that. So, I mean, obviously make your own choice about that, but just know that that's at the end of the day, not going to address the reason why you're bloated. It's kind of like a juice cleanse, right? So like, if every time you're bloated, you feel like you have to go on a juice cleanse and you're just giving yourself super expensive diarrhea, then like that's not addressing the root problem if you have to keep doing it. So that's kind of what I have to say about that.
Yeah. You guys can't see. I mean, maybe if you're watching on YouTube, but like she did the whole time she was talking, I had a cringe face. I still have a cringe face. It just sounds so unpleasant.
Yeah, I personally have never done it. I probably never will, but it sounds very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like, listen, I understand getting a colonoscopy is probably extremely uncomfortable too, but at least it's like helping you figure out information. Like, right? You know what I mean? But just to like, yeah, no, thank you. I'm good.
Yeah. I feel like it's very popular in like kind of the Ayurvedic world. Maybe I'm misspeaking there, but depends on like who you talk to. It's super popular. So yeah.
Oh man. Well, I will say, just as a reminder for everyone, we kind of glanced over it because I feel like I talk about it all of the time. And if you listen to the Tips with Toni podcast, you're probably really tired of me saying it. But like, if you have not started with just like the basics of like setting some boundaries, managing your stress, eating 3 balanced meals per day, like, eating enough, not starving yourself, not over exercising, but also maybe if you don't exercise at all, maybe moving your body a little bit more, drinking more water, getting more sleep, like the foundations of a healthy lifestyle really can do magic and can do wonders. So if you haven't done that yet, do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then if you're still struggling, please reach out to Dr. Heather, like please, because she will give you a little bit more guidance. I love your program. It's called Gut Together.
Uh-huh.
So cute. Get the help that you need, and also you don't have to, I'm sure your DMs are always open, right, Heather? Like, yeah. I know you're busy, girl.
Send me a DM. I'm pretty good about responding.
Yeah. And you have a book coming out, right?
I do. Yes. It's called the Happy Healthy Gut Cookbook. It is coming out in December. So pre-order should be available in the next couple of weeks. Actually, I don't know when this episode is going live.
Really soon. Maybe we'll wait. Do you have a link for the pre-order?
I do. Yeah. It's actually on Amazon right now, but I haven't told anybody. So.
Okay. Because we'll be the first. Yeah. So, all right, get me that link. I will put it in the show notes and I will post this for whenever the week it's ready for pre-order. Okay. I'll put it out there. Amazing. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up today? Definitely share where people can find you on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah, I would just add that like if you've been struggling with digestive issues or you feel super stuck or just frustrated by like the lack of answers, I'll just tell you, like, I get it. I've been there and I know it's super frustrating. But like Tony said, I think really starting with the basics, sometimes we tend to overcomplicate things and make digestive health like this unachievable goal that like, oh, it's only when I can eat perfectly, or it's only when I can follow this like super strict regimen or whatever. But the reality is like you are working to improve your gut health so that you can live your daily life, regardless of if you're busy or traveling or whatever. And so maybe like making it less complicated is actually the solution, and can allow you to have a bit more freedom within the context of your symptoms. So just to give you a little bit of hope there. But then as far as where you can find me, I hang out most of the time on Instagram. I'm starting to go on TikTok, but mostly on Instagram. So it's at Dr. Heather Finley. And I have a podcast as well. It's called the Love Your Gut Podcast. And Tony is going to be a guest on mine too. So you can check out that episode.
Amazing. Oh, so great. Guys, make sure you give her a follow on Instagram, the podcast, even TikTok. I love TikTok. Like it's annoying to figure out, but it's actually, I like it more as like the viewer, not as the content producer. But yeah, anyways, make sure you follow her and get the book, pre-order that book. I'm so excited. I'm totally going to get that. I think it'll be a great resource, especially you said it's like recipes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's about 60 pages of like front matter. So all the like lifestyle shifts, symptom management tools. So there is a section like on acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, gas. So like symptom management. And then there's recipes in the back too, which, the pictures are so good. So I'm super excited about the pictures.
Amazing. Oh, that's so great. All right, guys, go get your copy. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button. A new episode comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. And when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. All right, that's it from us today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.